Hi, my name is Paul Adepoju. I was recently in Germany for the 12th Heidelberg Laureate Forum, which continues to be a meeting point for mathematics, physics, and researchers in other related fields. They come together from different parts of the world. They learn from each other. It's like a celebration and constellation of experts in these fields coming together to advance their advanced research and to give a better perspective into what the future looks like in this ecosystem. It's held in Germany. I was in attendance, and in between the various intricacies of the sessions and the keynote speeches, sideline discussions, and pop-up gatherings, I was very, very passionate about getting into the minds of the researchers from Africa to actually understand how they are coping with this reality, what is inspiring them, who are they looking up to, what does the future pipeline of mathematics and physics experts look like in their respective countries, how ambitious are they, and how are they positioning themselves for the future. And that conversation is what I'm bringing to you today on this unique episode of the Paul Talk Science podcast. So enjoy this episode and let me know your thoughts. Hopefully it inspires you and gives you a clearer perspective of what these lines of research look like in Africa. Thank you very much.
Hannah Emefa Afi Azinobo. I'm a student of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Ghana. I just finished my master's reading biomedical data science. I'm awaiting graduation in November.
Wow.
Then I moved on to applying it in biomedical data science.
Before I started recording, you were talking to me about how you started your journey into mathematics. It was due to, I think, influence positively for young people that do not have that influence. So how do you think probably your classmates that are also in math, how did they discover maths themselves?
Truthfully, I think I met only one person in my class who really wanted to do math. Every other person felt like they accidentally fell into the course. I think that math is not properly published or properly advertised in Africa and in Ghana. And because of how abstract it can be, I was blessed to have a father who would always refer to how math is applicable in everyday life. So I remember one time I needed to cut something and he was like, Hannah, it is just math. It is math. He would always prompt me about how math is not just practical in a squared plus b squared and all that, but like how it's used in everyday life. And so I had that notion all my life that math is good. And one of the things I'd always hear people say is that, oh, math is great for everything. But sometimes when you are faced with like math being good for everything, it's almost like there's no specifics. So you don't know what exactly it is for. That's what I would say it was my main challenge. And that's what I would say is the challenge for the average African child, because we are not taught about how to specifically apply math in the different things that we do. And the career paths are not also very defined, as opposed to studying medicine and becoming a doctor or becoming an engineer. So maybe the closest thing you would say is like math can make you an engineer, but well. So I went through high school and then I wanted to do biomedical engineering because I've always been interested in doing something health related, but I didn't want to become a doctor. Fortunately, I got the course, but at the time, the fees were a problem. And I had the option of being a regular student doing math, so I picked it. And honestly, for the first 2 years of my schooling, I was very confused. I was going to class, I understood the concepts, but I was always asking myself, so how do I use this? How do I use that? And I remember one time I approached a lecturer and he told me that I should give my best and understand all the concepts that I need to. And very soon, he specifically said in my final year, it would all make sense. And he was right.
Oh.
So in my final year, I took a course in epidemiology. And in that course, I had to learn about disease modeling. And that was when it all made sense. All the theorems and all the proofs and all the differential equations, I had to use them in disease modeling. And that was when it all made sense.
Okay.
So after that, I decided, knowing this and knowing that math can be applied in health, even that it was a population dynamics problem, I knew that I could go for it. I could go for exploring more opportunities in health in math.
Wow.
And that's how I got into biomedical data science.
how aligned is the local training you got with the international landscape of math?
Wouldn't lie, but I felt very challenged as I've come here. Um, I'm just trying to give myself some grace and take my time. But I've seen people doing so many great stuff, and I'm like, wow, like people are doing this, people are doing that. I wish I was exposed to a bit more in my undergrad, because in my undergrad, like I said earlier, I was still confused. I didn't really know my footing. I have improved much as a master's student than I did as an undergrad. I've even met undergrad students at this HLF, and I think that they have even, if I compare their work to me as an undergrad, I think like we are nowhere close. So I would say the teaching is the same, and we do a lot of, I understand the concepts, but I don't think the exposure is the same, because let's say I did something like discrete math in undergrad. I wouldn't know where to apply it. I wouldn't know what to use that for. But if I was exposed to conferences, if I came for a conference and I saw someone using the formulae that I learned, applying it somewhere, I think that would have opened my mind more to appreciating what mathematics is, as opposed to just following on the theoretical line and getting more confused.
Now let's talk about localizing math for Ghanaian audience. So you studied math, you see the global landscape, and you know the uniqueness of what you have in Ghana. So what space do you think math can still, what role can math still play locally?
I still think that, I can't believe I'm agreeing with this, but I still think that math is everywhere. And when you do math, you can do everything. Because as I've come here, I've seen people apply math in health, in finance, in forensic work, in different things. I've seen people do math in climate science. And so far as there's an equation in whatever they are doing, they're applying some form of math. Like I've seen it in physics, I've seen it. So that's old thing that people say that when you do math, you can do everything. Much as it's not true, I think it's also true. And I just think that if Africans and Ghanaians are informed a bit more about the uses of math, it would make us appreciate it. Because unfortunately, math teachers were the teachers we hate the most too. It's like the math teacher is always the scary one who's always doing a mental or something. But if that wasn't the narrative and it was more like the math teacher is the one who's making you appreciate it more, maybe we would like math better.
So how was your math teacher? And if what you just described about the ideal math teacher is what you experienced, what still pushed you to still continue on that journey?
So I had a math teacher and I had a math teacher. So I had a math teacher in school who was all about the mental and all that. But like I said earlier, I had very strong backing from my dad. My dad used to teach me math a lot. So I didn't really get in trouble with my school math teacher. He actually liked me because it was like, oh, teachers like good students. Yes. Because I had the support of my dad, who was maybe my ideal math teacher, patient enough to explain things to me, to teach me things. I didn't really have trouble with my school math teacher, but that wasn't the case for most of my friends who may have even liked math, but they didn't have that support. Obviously, the emotional attachment to my father would also count in my appreciating.
I think you also mentioned the fact that how far a maths person in a place like Ghana will go would be largely determined by the community, the kinds of supervisors that person has. So how is that for you, and how did that influence your journey to this forum?
Yeah. So, like I said, in my undergrad, I wasn't exposed to any of this. But because of the supervisor, or let me say the lecturer I got to work with during my national service, he is Professor Peter Amwakunyoenchi. I got exposed to all of this. He pushed me to do so many things that I wouldn't have done on my own. He pushed me to learning some programming languages I wouldn't have learned. He pushed me to learn Python. He pushed me to learn how to type in LaTeX. He pushed me to learn C. I remember I'm not so good. He pushed me to start it. Then because of the space that he had created in the university, I started meeting other people who had attended conferences. I started learning about local workshops and local conferences. And the more conferences I went to, the more I got to learn about others. I learned how to sell myself. That was one very important thing, because like many times young researchers are shy and you don't think what you're doing is so great, but you'll be so surprised realize that what you're doing is actually necessary. So I learned how to sell myself. I learned how to speak. I learned how to do a poster presentation. He used to have weekly presentations for us, and every week we'd have to present progress on our work. That was also very good. So it built me up just because of the lecture that I was attached to. And I'm really very grateful for him. And I think that if people have support this way, it will change the narrative of how math is useful in Africa.
I want to come back to what you consider opportunities that you feel like Africa is uniquely positioned to excel at when it comes to math.
Okay, because I'm in health, I think I'll be a bit more biased towards health. Unlike in the Western world where algorithms and languages and different things are being developed every day to improve their healthcare system, we still have that problem in Africa. And unfortunately, we have more health problems than they do. More health problems that are only even specific to us. So I think that math opens the door for many people who are interested to explore that as an option. In my research work, I worked with measuring childhood burns. One of the points in my work, I had to try some models that had been worked on in China, I think, and in some other countries. I had to deploy them on my data set. And they performed poorly, not because they were bad models, but because the data set was different. African skin is different from Chinese skin. So I think that that alone has opened an opportunity for that kind of research to be done in Africa. And because of our diversities, I think that studying math opens it up for African young researchers to solve African problems. That's what I think.
Yeah, I'll take that then.
I think our economic situations, I don't know so much about economics, but I think that economic structures are also different. So I think that finance and economics is also a good place to explore for a math person in Africa.
What about unique opportunities provided by AI from an African mathematician perspective? What potentials do you see AI presenting itself with? So how are you applying artificial intelligence?
Yes, again in health. My work is okay. So traditionally, clinicians measure the size of a burn by visual estimates and they use charts, traditional paper charts, but that is very subjective. And so I'm trying to use computer vision and neural networks, bit of it, to be able to measure the size of a burn so that we have something that is more objective and something that is more correct, so that the amount of fluid that a clinician can give to a patient is more. Now, that is one of the fields that I've applied AI in health. So that's what I would say that it makes it unique, because it's not something, I mean, to the best of my knowledge, it's not something that is being explored so much, especially on African data.
So for you, what would you consider the top potentials for math in Africa?
I would say health as well. I would say finance. I would say, yeah, maybe health, business. I'd say business. Yeah, but mainly health, because I think that one of the major problems in Africa is health system. So mainly health, and not even only health that is in relation to injuries like I am doing or something that affects the body, but even the health system in the administration of it. I have a friend who's working on optimization models for nurse scheduling in a hospital. So that is a health problem, but it's not directly affecting like your body, but it's also a health problem. You go to the hospital and then you have to form queues and who's a more important patient than another. You don't really have that problem somewhere else, but it is a problem in Africa.
Absolutely. I agree
So I
with you.
think that health is one of the main ones, even though I'm a bit more biased.
So now, what do you think is underreported or not reported at all regarding your sector, regarding math in general and the issues around it that I think deserve attention?
Yeah, I think the opportunities are not reported at all. I think the applications of math are also not reported at all. I had a friend last year who was coming to my university and he really does well in math. And so I said, I think you should do math, but he didn't want to because he had heard his whole life that if he does math, he become a math teacher. So he chose to do computer engineering and he did it, but he's not doing so well. I think that he would have done better if he did math. He would have appreciated the concepts well, and maybe going on, he would have been able to define what exactly he wants to apply the math in. So I think that the usefulness, the opportunities, the applications are not well advertised. It's one of the things that, so people who have used math, people who are benefiting from it, should speak up more about it. And not just hide in the shadows out of Africa and not come back. They should come back and give back and talk about how math has helped them.
Opportunities. Do you think the continent is ripe for mathematicians to stay back and build a successful career in? How will you describe the preparedness for Africa to retain its mathematicians?
I think that many times people do not stay because the conditions are not so favorable. People feel more appreciated when they go elsewhere. More appreciated in terms of how much you're paid, in terms of living conditions, in terms of care for their family and they themselves. And so that is why when they finish, they just quickly go. And I think that will take a lot of effort to get people to stay back. Finality, a lot of math people who have done well here in Africa to decide that let's come together and make the math nice enough to make people stay. Let's make governments would be involved in one way or another, but I think that we still have a long way to go. I don't think we are prepared yet. I think it's possible, but I don't think we are prepared yet, unfortunately.
So who are your African or Ghanaian mathematics role models?
My PI that I mentioned that I work with, he's maybe the only person I would say that I think has advanced a lot in mathematics. He did mathematics, but he's done software engineering, he's done math in health, he's done something in finance. He's been able to explore the different ways that math can be meaningful. He is the person I would say is somebody I would look up to in the field of math. I've seen a couple of people on LinkedIn. I saw Darlington. He's doing some work in a lab with AI in health. Somebody I would want to work with if I have the opportunity. I don't know whether to call him my role model yet, but I'm just interested in the fact that he's doing something AI in health.
So if you use your situation right now as a yardstick to look at, do you think the lack of people to look up to, at least to be inspired by and get clarity on what the potentials of math could be, would have made a whole lot of difference?
Yes, I think so. I gladly think so. Because as you've said it, I've just even realized that there's pretty much no one to look up to. It's all almost every other person is a foreign person, not somebody that's in Ghana. And many times they're not even trained here. So the notion is almost like, okay, if I want to make it, I have to go out. There are very few people who have stayed and have made impact and are still here. So I think that the lack of people to also look up to is a problem.
So what intervention do you think will make a whole lot of difference?
People who have made a difference shouldn't be quiet about math. They should come back to give back. And they should open up more opportunities to other young people as well. Unfortunately, one of the problems in Africa is that people like to keep information to themselves. They want to succeed alone. But I think that if I succeeded in something, it would be great that I tell other people that, hey, this is a good thing too. And I think that you have strengths in logic. I think that you have strengths in this and that and that. And I think that it will be well suited for math. And then you encourage someone, because there's so many notions about math that are wrong. And if we had the right people, starting from us, deciding to talk to people like, hey, I think it's worth it. I think you can do it. I think one by one, make a difference.
What do you see your future looking like in this sector?
In math, I think the future is bright for Africa.
For you?
For me.
Personally.
Okay, that's a nice question. Well, I still like my math roots. I still like that I'm applying it in health. And hopefully one day I'm believing that I'll do something groundbreaking that would affect Africa, more specifically children, make a mark. That's what I'm aiming for.
What about African institutions, universities, curriculum? How can they be better? What gaps do you see that I think needs improvement to make it relevant to what they are talking about here?
I think that there's not so much application-based things taught in math, right from elementary school, not even just university. Because we did trigonometry, we did logarithms, we did all those things, but we never got to appreciate what we're using it for. Everyone uses Google Maps, but you don't realize that all those directions, it's all angles, all trig, it's all shortest distance, it's all all those things that we have learned as abstract things and theories in school or growing up, all these things are applied in this way. So I think that the main gap is that teachers are not exposing students to how practical math is and how the different applications that math is useful for. So that's where I think the main gap is. Because like I said, until my master's, I didn't even know about all of this. And my undergrad, I was just learn the concepts and get away with it. But I think that if I was exposed to more practical use cases of math, like I was in my final year, I would have had a more exciting approach to studying the course.
Private international organizations that always desire to support the growth of math in different parts of the world, what do you think they can do to help an African math student?
I think that the organizing of the conferences already helps us because as I've come here, I've been very challenged. I've seen things that people are doing. I've been very impressed. I've seen other use cases of math and I've gotten to appreciate it better. So I think that the inclusion of Africa in all the things that they do helps us. So because I've seen a number of Africans here. I've met 2 other Ghanaians here. I've met 5 other Nigerians here. I met someone from Benin here. So I've met a number of Africans. And so I like that they're including us. And I think that the inclusion is what may make a difference because I don't think that we're there yet to organize things like this. I mean, there is some that I've attended. I don't think that it compares to this.
What is the difference?
I think that the main difference here, number one, is the having young researchers interact with laureates. I don't see that. I've never seen that in any of the conferences I've attended. It's almost like the intelligent ones are there and then you are just there to sit and listen and get done with it. The second thing that I'll say has made this difference is the friendly environment, having young researchers interact with each other as well. Get to hear what each person is doing, each person's working on, the recommendations. Because just a few people that I've gotten to speak to about my work, I've got someone say, oh, I think you should talk to this other person. They may not know what I'm doing directly or impact it directly, but they'll probably know someone else who can help. So that's another thing that I think makes this forum different. And one of the things I also think makes a difference is the way there's a community of everyone who has attended, even after you're gone. So like there's still many things that are done for you even after you've left here. It's not just like a 1-week thing. There's still a plan to engage, to put you up to opportunities, career opportunities, schooling opportunities and all that. So I think that it's what makes this conference different.
Yeah, so thank you very much. This was fun. Thank you very much.